All right, today we're doing something a little different. We're going to crack open one of the most, let's be honest, one of the most confusing books in the entire Bible, Leviticus. Our mission is to decode two of its most foundational rituals. And yeah, I know, it seems like some ancient, dusty text, but you are going to be shocked by what it has to say about our lives right now. So let me just ask you straight up. Blood, smoke, and flour. What in the world can these ancient rituals possibly mean for us today? It's a totally fair question. For a lot of people, Leviticus is just this bizarre maze of rules that feels completely irrelevant. But what if it's not just a rule book? What if it's actually a symbolic language, a kind of code that, once you find the key, unlocks these profound ideas about devotion and work and what it means to live a pure life? Well, that's exactly what we're going to try and find out. Okay, so to get started, we need to see the rituals in action. We're going to focus on two really foundational offerings that pretty much set the stage for the entire system of worship back then. First up is the burnt offering. In Hebrew, it's called the olah, which literally means to ascend. And this was a huge deal. It was a completely voluntary act. A worshiper would bring an animal, and the entire thing, I mean everything, but the hide, was turned into smoke on the altar, literally ascending to God. It was the ultimate picture of holding nothing back, a symbol of complete and total surrender. So let's just walk through how this would have actually happened. First, you had to pick a perfect, unblemished animal. You couldn't just bring your leftovers. You had to bring your absolute best. Then, the worshiper does this really personal thing. They lay their hands on the animal's head, which is this powerful act of identification. After that, the priest takes over the sacred duties at the altar. And finally, the whole thing goes up in smoke, which the text describes as a pleasing aroma to God, signifying that it's been accepted. Now, in complete contrast to the high drama of the burnt offering, you have the grain offering, or mincha. The Hebrew word for this just means gift or tribute, kind of like something you'd bring to honor a king. This was an offering of fine flour, maybe baked into bread or fried in a pan, and it represented something totally different. The product of your daily grind, the fruits of your labor, offered back to God as a simple thank you. So when you put these two offerings together, you get this really complete picture of worship. On one side, you've got the olah, an animal completely burned, symbolizing your total devotion, your whole life. And on the other side, you have the mincha, grain, with just a small memorial piece burned, symbolizing your gratitude and the dedication of your daily work. It's like two sides of the same coin, right? It's about offering both your life and your livelihood. Okay, so we've got the what down, but now we've got to decode the why. And this is where it gets really fascinating, because every single element in these rituals was a symbol. The language of the altar is about to come alive. Every single action was just packed with meaning. Laying your hands on that animal, that wasn't just a casual touch. It was a symbol of substitution. It's like you were saying, this animal stands in for me. The whole without blemish rule, that's a super clear message. God deserves your best, not the thing you were going to get rid of anyway. And with the grain offering, burning just a small memorial portion was this beautiful symbolic act, where one little part stood for the dedication of your entire harvest. And the burnt offering being completely burned, that's just a powerful, unmistakable picture of a life totally given over with zero reservations. It even gets down to the ingredients themselves, which had this deep symbolic weight, especially with the grain offering. Get this, yeast and honey were strictly forbidden on the altar. So why? Well, yeast makes things puff up, right? It symbolized corruption, insincerity, these inflated appearances. And honey, well, it can ferment and spoil. God wanted something pure. But salt was required. It was actually called the salt of the covenant because it stood for purity, preservation, and the permanence of an unbreakable, enduring relationship. Now, of course, symbolic rituals this rich don't just fade into history. For thousands of years, people have interpreted and reinterpreted them, and that's created this incredibly deep well of theological thought across all kinds of different traditions. Let's just briefly look at three major ways Christians have understood this. In the evangelical tradition, these offerings are often seen as what's called a typology, a direct foreshadowing of Christ. He's the perfect, unblemished sacrifice, the unleavened bread of life. Then you have liberal and critical scholars who tend to look at it from a socio-historical angle. They analyze how these rules helped establish the authority and, frankly, the economic system that supported the priests. And in the Catholic tradition, you can see a direct line from these ancient rituals to the liturgy today. The offering of bread and that memorial portion are seen as a clear prototype for the Eucharist or the Mass. Okay, this is all fascinating stuff, but here's the million-dollar question. What does any of this have to do with us, right? We don't have a temple, we don't have altars, so how could these ancient ideas possibly apply to our lives today? Well, let's start with that grain offering. Remember, it was all about dedicating the fruit of your labor. This idea completely reframes how we can think about our work. It suggests that your job, whatever it is, isn't just about paying the bills. It can actually be a sacred act, an offering. Just think about what this looks like in the 21st century. An engineer who obsesses over writing elegant, efficient code, that's their fine flour. A chef who is committed to using honest, quality ingredients is presenting an unleavened meal. A teacher who puts in hours of dedicated prep so their students can thrive, that is an offering without blemish. And when we financially support people and causes that serve our communities, well, that's our modern version of the portion that went to support the priests. And hey, what about those forbidden ingredients, the yeast and the honey? The call to avoid them is surprisingly relevant. It's really a call to resist the corrupting influences in our own world, the things that promise puffery and cheap sweetness but don't deliver. I mean, seriously, think about it. What's the yeast of our time? It could be the puffery of social media, right? Or the endless pressure from consumerism to want more or bigger or better. And the honey, maybe it's that hit of instant gratification we get from scrolling through short-form videos or eating junk food or just consuming shallow entertainment that gives a quick rush but leaves us with nothing of substance. This ancient code is a warning against building a life on that stuff. So this is where we'll leave it. In a culture that is just saturated with the yeast of inflated appearances and the honey of instant gratification, what does it mean to offer something with salt, something real, something that preserves, something that endures? What is the offering of purity and permanence that you are bringing to your work, to your relationships, and to your world? That's the ancient code of Leviticus unlocked for us today.